In this video, our favorite budget on-camera shotgun mic, the Movo VXR10, gets an upgrade. Hey, Brian Miller here, and welcome to Audio for Content Creators, where we help you sound better and level up for all your content creation needs. And in this video, we're taking a look at the VXR10 Pro budget on-camera shotgun mic from Movo. This is their latest entry in the budget on-camera shotgun mic genre. How does the new VXR10 Pro stack up against the original? It's got some new features and it's the same price, but is it better? That's what we're going to find out. First, a disclaimer, of course, Movo sent me the VXR10 Pro. I have an ongoing, long-standing collaborative relationship with Movo. They send me almost all of their products. Quick note from the future. I've decided to make this entire video from the perspective of a vlogger or a content creator who's on the go or wants a seamless process. So everything you hear, all of my comments are with the VXR10 Pro mounted to the top of the camera, plugged directly into the camera. If you've been following my channel a long time, you know I would normally review and use a microphone boomed just out of frame overhead and plugged into a real preamp, like a portable audio recorder. But I don't think that's how most people use these microphones, and so at least in this first overview review video, I wanted to give you a sense of what it would sound like, 2 feet away, 3 feet away. You'll notice that the exact same mic in the exact same position sounds much fuller and deeper and warmer simply because I got so much closer to it versus sitting back here and being out of focus and 3-4 feet away from it as I am right now. Just something to keep in mind. So what else do you get besides the microphone itself? Well, you get a couple of things. You get this fantastic hard, well, it's kind of a sort of hard. It's not like a hard case, but it is a nice zippered carrying case. Movo has a habit of sending cases like this with almost all of their products, which I personally love. It's got all kinds of cool stuff in here. You get a ton of stuff for $50, which is what this microphone costs. Again, same price for the new VXR10 Pro as the original VXR10. You get a foam wind screen, which is not on there right now. Furry wind muff that's designed to go over the windscreen, which we'll demonstrate in just a little bit. You get some documentation, of course. We'll go over the specs in a second. And you get 2 different cables, the same 2 cables Movo gives you with basically every one of their standard microphones. The TRRS cable, which is currently plugged into the camera right now, and the TRRS cable, which you can use to plug the microphone directly into a smartphone, tablet, or computer. So what are the main differences between the original VXR10 and the VXR10 Pro? Well, for starters, the VXR10 Pro, it says, is a super cardioid condenser. Supercardioid as opposed to cardioid. Cardioid microphones pick up directly from the front, a little bit to the sides, and reject almost everything to the back. Supercardioid is even tighter than that. It picks up almost exclusively from the front, almost nothing to the sides, and mostly rejects to the back, although the tighter the cardioid, so when we get to a supercardioid, it actually picks up a little bit more from the back. It doesn't do as good a rejection. The tighter the pickup pattern, the less good the rejection is from the off axis. Something to be aware of there. Having said that, even though Movo says it's a supercardioid condenser microphone, when I go look at the pickup pattern, to my eyes, this just looks like a standard cardioid pickup pattern. I do not see this as being supercardioid. It's being called supercardioid. I'm not convinced. Not to say that that's a bad thing. I think that a standard cardioid pattern is absolutely the right choice for most content creators, because a lot of times you're over here, you're over there, you're talking from different places, and you really don't want a microphone that's mounted to your camera that only picks up directly from the front, because then if you moved over here, or you moved over here, or you're holding the camera and you turn it different ways, it would be too specific. Now, the frequency response of the new VXR10 Pro is 20 hertz to 18 kilohertz. That is actually quite a bit wider of a response than the original VXR10, which I believe was 50 hertz to 16 kilohertz. So this has an extended low end all the way down to 20 hertz, and it extends the high end up to 18 kilohertz. Typically, you're going to, in post-processing, you're going to roll off a human voice at about 70, 80, maybe even 90 hertz. So having that extended low end down to 20 hertz doesn't do that much for us, but it does give us a slightly less colored sound, which you can manipulate in post. So I'm in the process of putting together this review video, and while I've been doing it, I noticed something that I didn't notice while I was actually making it, which is this microphone, the VXR10 Pro, it sounds a little thin, a little less warm than the original VXR10, which actually really surprised me because this new VXR10 Pro has an extended frequency response, all the way down to 20 hertz on the low end, where the original stopped at, I think, 50 hertz. And that should make it sound deeper, it should make it sound fuller, and possibly even richer. But it clearly isn't doing that. So I looked up the frequency response in the documentation, and I'll put it on the screen right now. In fact, it does go all the way down to 20 hertz, but you can see that there's a fairly aggressive low shelf that's been taken out of the low end from 200 hertz all the way down to 20. It's pretty aggressive, and I'm not sure why Movo chose to do that. I'll have to reach out and ask them. And the reason I'm not sure why they did that is I don't think if you left that low response in, it would have been a muddy sounding microphone. Now, maybe that's why they did it, right? They were worried because the original sounded a little muddy, a little dark, so they notched out, they shelved out this low end. But here, I'm going to add that low end back in right now. Now you're hearing an additional 3 or 4 decibels, I'll put it on the screen, whatever I did, of low end exactly starting at 200 hertz and going down. I'm basically just doing a reverse of the shelf to bring it back to what would have been neutral. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. And I don't think this sounds overly muddy. I think it just sounds full and rich. So now we're back to normal, and you can hear how much it just thinned out the second I took that boosted shelf away, and we're back to what the microphone actually sounds like. In any regard, I didn't realize that while I was making the review, so just keep that in mind as you're listening, that you may end up wanting to do a little extra boost in the low end in order to counterbalance that shelf that they've taken out. I don't think it makes this mic a bad mic or not worth getting, but it's something to be aware of. And now I've got both the VXR10 Pro and the original VXR10 plugged in via a splitter to the G85. So they're both plugged into the camera. One's in the right channel, one's in the left channel. You are still listening to the VXR10 Pro, but here I will bounce back and forth between the two of them. Hey, Brian Miller here, and thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Thursday Thoughts, all about something. This is the topic for this week. We're just doing an example for you to hear the two microphones. Hey, Brian Miller here, and thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Thursday Thoughts, all about something. This is the topic for this week. We're just doing an example for you to hear the two microphones. The VXR10 Pro also has a headphone jack. That's right, there is a separate headphone jack. Don't get too excited. You can't monitor your own audio. Like, it doesn't allow you to plug in headphones and listen to yourself while you're talking. That would have been great. I was really excited. I thought that's what was going to happen. It's not what happened. What it does give you the ability to do is to listen to playback when you're plugged into a smartphone, tablet, or computer. You don't have to unplug the mic and then plug headphones into your smartphone to listen to what you just recorded. You can just plug your headphones in to the mic, record something, and then listen back, all without having to plug and unplug the microphone over and over, which is a fantastic feature. Now let's head outside for a quick vlogging test and to test out the difference between the foam windscreen and the dead cat, which is shedding in the air as I'm shaking it around. I think we're officially far enough away from everybody. You must be hearing the wind if I just walk around a little bit. I'm just holding the G85. I don't even have it on a Gorilla Pod or anything. I'm holding it by the lens. I'm using a very, very wide 7-14 lens. This is bare. VXR10 Pro, bare. There's no pop filter. There's no wind muff. The foam windscreen on. Okay, now the foam windscreen is on. Did that make a difference? Is it any less windy? Did it change the tone of my voice? Obviously, I don't know. I can't hear it right now. We'll have to figure that out once I get back into the world. And you can clearly see how windy it is here. And now let's try the actual dead cat. It's on, and so it's big and goofy and flopping around, but it should be doing. It looks like it should be doing some decent wind protection. So now we can hear how it sounds. Oh, the sun. Oh yeah, a lot of wind. You should see the dead cat is flopping around like crazy right now. So the question is, how does it sound if you're out vlogging with the dead cat on? Is it helping versus, let's take it off. Here we go. Now the dead cat is off, the phone windscreen is off, so you're just getting the raw wind noise right now. It is just... And now we've got the dead cat and the phone windscreen on again. So you should be able to get a sense of if this thing bobs, if it makes any noise, if the wind rejection is good with the dead cat. I flipped the mic around. Now I can actually get some images of what we're looking at here. So this is just an example of how you might be using the Movo VXR10 to narrate and point to stuff and things like that. Alright, I am now using the VXR10 Pro plugged in via the TRRS cable directly into my Samsung Note 8. I'm actually using a Movo handheld mini tripod with a Movo smartphone holder. Just making sure there's nobody else near me right now. Nobody's gonna come get me. And yeah, so I've got the Movo VXR10 Pro plugged in directly to the smartphone. This is how it sounds. I'm obviously sitting underneath a tree. I've got a little bit of protection from the wind, and because I don't think we need to do another wind test right now. I'm using the good camera on my phone, so I can't actually see myself. I have no idea if I'm framed up properly. I'm actually using the screen on the G85 to kind of be a monitor for me to make sure that I'm actually framed up reasonably well. Nonetheless, this is how it sounds if you wanted to use it directly into a smartphone for doing, I don't know, vlogging, content creation, whatever. All right, we are back from the field. We were out there in the world. I even did a live stream from the middle of the field while I was out there, which was fun, which many of you who are watching this probably watched live while it happened. So what are my thoughts on the dead cat and using the VXR10 Pro kind of as a vlogging mic for run and gun, for being out in the world? I thought that without any protection, without the foam windscreen, without the dead cat, it completely fell apart. But that's to be expected. That would happen with any mic, and the kind of crazy wind. I got lucky in terms of a wind test with today being just an insanely windy day. The foam windscreen did nothing for the wind out there. That is only going to help you in terms of plosives if you get really, really close to the microphone. So the foam windscreen by itself is not going to help you with the actual wind. But the dead cat did a really good job. It was not perfect. There were a couple of times when the wind kicked up really, really crazy and hit it at just the right angle, and it still got through the dead cat. But 90% of the time, the dead cat completely eliminated the low-end rumble of the wind, which I gotta say was fantastic. Other than that, just moving around, I didn't hear any of the issues that some folks have with the original VXR10. The original VXR10 had a kind of a Movo cheap plastic shock mount, which did a mediocre job. It occasionally would bop around, and you could hear it bopping around. That would come in, the thumping would come into the mic itself. This is an official Rycote shock mount on the VXR10 Pro, and it does a fantastic job, as you would expect from a Rycote mount. So as for using it for vlogging, I think you'd be very, very happy with just using it out there in the world. Oh. Ran into the desk, shook everything. Can I get this in frame? Am I doing a good job of... All things considered, this is really a fantastic device. I think for $50, anybody would be happy with this as their first real mic, their first upgrade for content creation. If you're just using the built-in mics on your camera or your smartphone, this is a huge upgrade for only 50 bucks. It comes with the case and the 2 different cables for the camera versus smartphones, tablets, etc. It's got the Rycote shock mount. It's got a windscreen, a foam windscreen for pelosas if you're just indoors. Maybe you're gonna do a boom setup. It's got the furry dead cat for real serious wind and vlogging. It's much crisper and much less muddy, much less dark than the original VXR10. And I think for all of that, I give this a huge thumbs up. Links in the description to the VXR10 Pro and anything else, related videos, whatever else I may have mentioned. Thanks so much for sticking with me. If this video was helpful, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and always remember, our world is a shared experience. Every interaction is meaningful, and every person you meet, even virtually, is important. So come back anytime to sound better and level up, and we'll see you soon. I feel like I was a little extra manic just trying to finish making this video. Seriously, Movo, why am I holding this up? It's awesome. Thank you for sending this to me.